Hi, everyone. Hi. Hospice Nurse Julie here. I am coming to you from my apartment, which looks kind of dark, doesn't it? Hold on. Let's do this together, shall we? Bear with me, guys. My producers for this channel, Jeff and Max, are gonna kill me. Does that look better? Maybe a little better. Hey everyone, welcome. So I'm using a different computer today. So I feel like it looks a little shabby. But you know what? Perfectionism, we don't need it here. We don't need it here. Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to my very first live in 2024. I'm going to be coming here every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's just get right to it, into the questions. I'll be here for about an hour. And thank you for everyone saying hello. Hello to everyone. And please feel free to answer and talk to each other in the comments as well. I want this to feel like a community of people. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you, Jill. Hi, Megan. Okay, so let's see. I saw one up here. And Megan is in blue and has a little star by her name because she's in my membership community. So thank you, Megan, for all your support. Is it hard being a hospice nurse? There are parts of my job that are difficult. A lot of it's working within the Medicare system that's the hardest because you have to it's a bunch of like bureaucratic things, like hoops you have to jump through to get the best thing for your patient. That can be really hard, but in general, it's not. Someone says fire the producer. Listen, they want to fire me. My producers are great. And I'm the one who like loses stuff and doesn't do things right. So they're probably rolling their eyes at me. The thing I didn't do right was leaving my computer at my friend's house. So now I'm using like an old computer. Whoopsie daisies. Okay. Welcome everybody. Come on in. I just started. It's midday in Australia. Rosa, I love that we are worldwide right now. Niche, I don't know how to say your name, but I'm going to hide you from this channel. Thank you guys in the UK. Do you have any tips for getting into medical school or anything for being a doctor or a nurse? So I don't have tips for medical school because I never did it. And it seems very difficult and a lot of work. And I feel like a lot of nurses kind of give doctors like a hard time. I never am like that. I never was like that. Doctors work their butt off to get where they are and what they're doing. So kudos to them, and we all work together. Nursing school, my thing is like, you have to really work your butt off to get into nursing school. And then once you're in nursing school, just remember that C's get degrees, okay? I mean that because you're going to learn a lot of stuff while you're a nurse. Yes, you need to pass your tests-ish. Like that's what I mean, but C's get degrees here. I feel like there's a lot of pressure when you're in nursing school to get straight A's. I know that's how it was for me, and I did get straight A's, which is amazing. But I also had panic attacks and like suffered a lot and was miserable, and it was just really bad. And it didn't have to be like that because once I got through it, I passed my NCLEX, and then you learn everything on the job. So be easy on yourself once you're in nursing school. C's get degrees, relax. Your teachers are going to make you feel like this is the end all be all. It's not. It's not. Do you have any tips for new PAs starting in inpatient hospice? First off, congratulations. Thank you for going into hospice. I would say if you can, follow people around when the doctors do the face-to-faces. They're called face-to-faces where they have to go see a patient. Well, you're going to be inpatient, but like you'll be seeing all these patients, right? where you you have to talk to families. The biggest thing I learned was how to talk to patients and families when I followed other nurses and other doctors around, because I heard how they were speaking to them, and it really helped me get some tips and tricks on like how to say certain things or how to listen. It's just a big learning curve when you first get into it, because I was in the ICU for like 7 or 8 years. I really have to figure this out, but around 7 or 8 years before I went into hospice. So it was just a lot of listening to how people spoke about things, and like kind of learning the ropes. But just like, you probably already know this, but don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to say you don't know. Like the first year of hospice, I just said like, I don't know all the time, because I didn't know. I didn't know. You have to really have a whole mind shift when you go from like the ICU to hospice, which I'm not sure where you were beforehand. Maybe you weren't anywhere. Maybe you were in school, but just don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't know. Hey, Janet, welcome from Arkansas. Or you're in Arkansas. I'm in California. Hi from Wales. That's amazing, Carol. Your channel has been helpful for my 91-year-old mother. She died December 1st. I was prepared for most of it thanks to you, but not afterwards. She looks so different. Yes, Carol, thank you so much for being here and being there for your mom and being able to prepare yourself to be with her. And yes, people after they have died do look very different. They do look very different. I don't know how like YouTube or any other social platforms would feel about me showing that, showing someone after they died. I'll have to look into it, because you're right. They do look different. How do you help someone whose body is shutting down, in pain, struggling to breathe? It's definitely not easy to ease fears. Okay, so Charlene, if they are already on hospice and someone's body is shutting down, if they're not on hospice, then you should call a doctor and see how you can help, right? Because I can't really give medical advice, but let's just say they're on hospice and this is happening, or you're talking about someone in hindsight. If someone's on hospice and their body is shutting down, which it will be, and they're having pain because of symptoms and struggling to breathe because of symptoms, and then she says, it's definitely not easy to ease fears, ease the fear of unknowing for a lot of people. So I would say first, the hospice team is not managing their symptoms that well if they are in pain and struggling to breathe. So we need to figure out how to give them more medication to help them breathe easier and not feel pain. So that's one. And then two, I think that actually might help not all of the fear, but some of the fear. Because a lot of people fear struggling before they die. And if they are struggling, that increases the fear. So we have to manage the symptoms first. Also, when it comes to fear at the end of life, I would say everyone has at least a little bit of fear. I guess not everyone, but many people do. And what I do for that is just meet them where they're at and tell them how normal they are. I try to not be like, don't be afraid. No, there's nothing to fear. Don't be afraid. I usually just listen and say, you're really normal for having those fears. It's really scary when things are unknown. Here's what I can tell you from my experience. People who are willing to talk about it and say they're afraid are usually less afraid eventually. So keep talking about it. Keep telling us how you feel. Don't deny how you feel. And that usually releases you from a lot of that fear already just by talking about it. My hair looks great. Thank you. Thank you. I did it right before I got on here. My 89-year-old mom is in hospice. She has vascular dementia, on oxygen much of the night, doing well in general. If she's in hospice, does that mean she doesn't have long? Not necessarily. So technically, to be on hospice, you have to have less than 6 months to live. But someone who is on hospice for vascular dementia can go on to hospice because so they have vascular dementia and they're declined enough to go on to hospice. So that usually means they've had some kind of incident where like they're not eating, they've lost weight, they're super weak, maybe they had a UTI or some infection or aspiration pneumonia, recent hospitalization, something like that. So they go on to hospice. That could mean that they have less than 6 months to live technically because they're on hospice. However, a lot of times people with dementia who are on hospice will end up staying on hospice for longer than 6 months, a year and a half. Sometimes they'll even come off hospice because they aren't getting sicker and then have to go on hospice later. So it just depends. I would talk to their doctor to see what they say. Karen says, does Medicare pay for hospice? Yes. Megan, who's a member of my membership program, says, please tap the heart to send likes. Yes, that will help the live. If you tap the heart, it'll help the live. I'm just going through like line by line. So if you've already asked your question, hang in there. I'm going to get to it. I'm just going line by line and basically do my best to answer all the questions. Julie's a hospice volunteer. Thank you. Thank you for hitting those hearts. That does help me. Carol says, do you know about Lou Gehrig's disease? I do. Yes, I do see people with ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease on hospice. It's a very difficult disease. People don't come on usually until the very end of ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. I have videos about that, Carol, if you actually want to go. It won't say Lou Gehrig's, it'll say ALS. It's a difficult disease. A lot of those patients I recommend towards the end, if they don't want to get trached and get a feeding tube, which I don't recommend, but that's just me. I would recommend them getting palliatively sedated, which means basically given medication so they go to sleep until they die. Only because a lot of the symptoms that they feel will be feeling like they can't breathe because their muscles are not allowing them to breathe. It takes muscles and strength to do that, and eventually they won't be able to do that. That sounds very, very scary. I hate that because I don't want to scare people, but that's the reality. And I think it's great to get prepared for that. And if you're going to go on hospice eventually, to ask that hospice company outright, what do you plan? Like, how are you going to plan my death when I'm getting closer and closer? Because I do think it's a significant disease that they really need to have a plan. Are they going to sedate me? Or like, what are they going to do? What's the plan? Because out of all the diseases, that one will have significant symptoms, usually a lot of drooling, a lot of secretions that you need to take care of. And that breathing feeling can be scary. So they need to have a plan in place. But people with ALS can die very peacefully. It just needs to be planned out. Is pink eye, which doesn't get cleared up, a sign of death? No. No, it's not. My mother-in-law aide on hospice was told by the hospice nurse this could be a sign. Hey, you know what? I can learn something new every day. I would never think that'd be a sign. Pink eye is just like from an infection, usually because of bacteria. So I think a lot of elderly people, especially if they are full care, meaning they have to like get cleaned and changed by somebody else, or someone who's like constantly picking at themselves and then like touching their eyes, they can get pink eye really easily. So I would say pink eye and UTIs are a big thing that happen in elderly people who are confused, possibly agitated. Again, not sure if your mother-in-law is, but I have never heard of pink eye being a sign that someone's close to death. That doesn't mean that's not real. But I haven't heard that or seen that. I'm leaving for Memphis to visit my friend with terminal ovarian cancer, 51, BRCA1. Oh, so sorry. It's so hard. Anything I should do or know? I worked at MSK for 20 years. I mean, I think if you're just going there to be with them, to visit them because they're terminal, I would just show up and be yourself and not be afraid to talk openly with them. If that's, I'm not sure of your relationship, right? Like, I don't know how close you are. If they're your best friend, just show up and be of service. I personally don't think we need to like make things better, right? Like if she says to you, I'm scared to die, I think it's scary, but hard to just say, I would be too, right? Or like, I don't know what to say. Or instead of, don't be scared to die, here's why, right? Just sort of showing up and being honest and being like the one person who maybe isn't afraid to talk about death and dying. But also like, you can't force it, right? Like just show up and be yourself and be of service, see where she's at, see what's happening. And that's all you can do. I hope that helps. Lisa says, Julie, do you believe when cancer patients say they're done, they know they're actually dying? Yes. People know they're dying. So Barbara Carnes always says, people, oh gosh, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's like people are in their bodies. They know they're dying, or like dying people know they're dying. They're in their body, like they know what's going on. I'm saying it wrong, but something like that. So yes, I do think that. I've got a good deathbed confession. You do, Alexandria? Please email me. hospicenursejulie@gmail.com. Please tell me this confession and let me know if I can share it with others. Yeah, don't forget to like. So thank you, Megan, for always doing the heart. There's a heart, I think, at the bottom of your screen. If you tap that, that helps the live. I appreciate it. I'm just going on the line here, guys, so I will get to your question best I can if you can just hang in there. What does it mean when you are transitioning? Terry, oh man, it's so hard because the word transitioning is so like, what the heck does that mean? And a lot of healthcare workers don't like using it because of its grayness. So a lot of people use transitioning, including other healthcare workers, as the step before actively dying. So actively dying is the last few days of life. How do you know you're in it? Because there's very obvious signs. If you're curious, there's many videos on my page called Actively Dying, and I'll go over all the symptoms of actively dying. It's the last phase of life. The step before that is sometimes called transitioning. And that usually means, hey, everybody on the hospice team, I'm letting you know so-and-so is transitioning. So you know that if they call, like it's kind of like a heads up for the family, for the patient, for the other healthcare workers at the hospice organization to know that this person's getting close. They're getting close to actively dying. And once they're actively dying, it's usually only a matter of days. So the transitioning period can last for a couple weeks sometimes. So that's what they mean by transitioning. And someone just became a new member. I can't see who it is, but hopefully I'll be able to see in a second. Thank you so much for joining the membership. When you do, you'll be able to get like first dibs on me answering questions and stuff. Hang in there, guys. I'm going to get to your questions. You guys are all, I know it's hard to wait, but I like to go through like kind of one by one here. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading through here. Sally says, I'm a qualified mental health nurse, 34 years, but still don't understand fits in the dying process. So Sally, I'm not sure what you mean, but I'm hoping you mean this. Fits meaning when people kind of have agitation moments. So we don't really understand it either fully. We don't fully understand why agitation happens sometimes at the end of life. We have theories and reasons and see common things, like common things would be constipation, urinary retention, and pain. And we kind of do little tests to see, is that why this person's agitated? And if it does, then we usually can clear that agitation. Sometimes it's just the disease they're dying from. Sometimes it's the person's personality. Like people who have a really hard time letting go and like letting someone take care of them if they're really independent or they're used to just getting up and going and doing whatever, they can usually sometimes have these fits or periods of agitation during the dying process. So if that's what you mean, we too don't fully know why. Nikki says, Julie, do you have any patients stay in your thoughts after they pass? Girl, yes. So many patients stay in my thoughts. I think about patients all the time. I wish even now when I go to work sometimes and I just meet these amazing people and their families, I wish I could just ask them, hey, can I record you and show you to millions of people because you're so amazing. I want everyone to know who you are. Of course, that's totally inappropriate and I would never do that or risk my job in doing that, but like that's how it feels. The most favorite part of my job is the fact that I get to meet the coolest, not all the time, but a lot of times, the coolest people and their families. So yes, I think about it. And becoming a hospice nurse is the best thing I ever did for my career. So if there's any nurses that are watching that are not happy in their nursing career, do something else. Do something. I don't even mean like not nursing. I mean like do a different type of nursing, because I was not happy as an ICU nurse. I was not happy as an ICU nurse, and I am happy as a hospice nurse. Thank you so much for that $13 donation. I still haven't seen, I will get to you. I will see where you are in 1 second and like call you out by name. Of course, I'm like, I don't know how computers work, so I'm still going through, but I'm going to get to you. I'm from Scotland. I would say that in your experience, when someone passes, the person tends to look younger. Sometimes. So sometimes all the muscles relaxing in the face can make someone look younger. Sally says, have you ever seen someone die from esophageal cancer? Yes. And I've actually seen many people in the ICU die from that. I will say, because I don't see it often, it doesn't really stick out to me as something that's like super painful or anything. It can be a little hard because sometimes you can have complications from if you have to take out the esophagus and stuff. It can be difficult, but like the dying process itself must not be that like symptom. Oh my, what the hell am I trying to say? It must not give many symptoms, because I'd remember it more. Like that's not a disease that sticks out to me to be like, oh yeah, make sure to talk about this, if that helps. Okay. Hi, Julie. I lost my mom a year ago to dementia, and it's the hardest thing to go through. Yes. Do dementia patients keep the smelling instinct? You know, Gwen, I don't know. That isn't something that usually comes up in like hospice work, so I don't know. Does a patient get acute hearing at the end of life? No. If they haven't had hearing, they will not. But hearing is the last sense to go at the end of life. With hospice care, a chaplain is available to talk to. Wishing I had done that. Yes, Kim. So please, everybody, listen to this. Kim, thank you for bringing that up. Your hospice team involves a social worker and a chaplain. Many people will deny them because they're like, we don't need it, especially a chaplain. We're not religious, or we are religious, but we don't need them to come by, or we aren't religious and we don't want them to bring religion into the home or whatever. The chaplain will never do that. The chaplain will never proselytize or try to get you to go to their religion or talk about their religion. The chaplain is there only to support, and they're amazing people, like 10 out of 10 times. So please always utilize the hospice chaplain. Please discuss rapid breathing hours before passing, Tim says. Tim, thank you for mentioning that. So that is one of the main things that can happen at the end of life, or not main, expected. It's one of the expected things that can happen at the end of life, which is changes in breathing. And sometimes that can look scary because they'll breathe rapid. They'll breathe, or they won't breathe for a long period of time. Or they will breathe like they're kind of like a fish out of water breathing, right? So there's different types of breath. There's Cheyne-Stokes breathing, agonal breathing. I have many videos where I show real life actively dying patients. They're not my patients. They're people who sent videos in to help this channel. Thank you to everybody who does that. And it's all very normal. Now, Tim, if it's super rapid and the person looks uncomfortable, it has like a face that looks uncomfortable, I would medicate for that, because sometimes rapid breathing, even though it's normal, can be uncomfortable. And I'd want to err on the side of like, hey, well, let's just make sure this person's comfortable, and probably give medication to help slow it down. What are your views on the death penalty, and how do you feel about drugs used to execute inmates? Jean, that's a great question. To be honest, I don't know enough about what drugs are used to execute inmates to have a real opinion about that. And my views on the death penalty, I'm not crazy about it, but I'm also not like super anti it. I don't know. I don't have a huge opinion on that. I do have huge opinions, but that's not on the thing. Not on that. But thank you. Have you ever had a hospice patient who was mentally disabled? How is it different when you can't explain the process so easily? Yes, I've had. So not, I'm trying to think. I think I have had a couple patients who are mentally disabled. I usually would have to talk to their families more than them, per their family's request. And but also I've had people with mental health disorders, like severe, right? And those people, I would try my best to talk to them, and talk to their families. It's a little more difficult, but for the most part, if they have good support, it's okay. It's when they don't have really good support that it can be very difficult, and they usually will have more difficult deaths, just because, people, especially with mental health stuff, which is not their fault, right? But like, if you've lived a life of like I had one lady, extreme anxiety disorder, totally relatable. Anybody? I mean, I have pretty crazy anxiety myself, but like, because of that, she would refuse to like discuss things, talk about things, admit that she had something wrong, right? And that in turn did not help her dying process. It was more of a struggle. It was more of a struggle for her. But we can only meet people where they're at. Thank you, Joy. What's the difference between hospice and palliative care? I have a video about that. To get the full explanation, please go see my video, the difference between hospice and palliative care. But really quickly and very generally, there's much more to this, but sometimes I feel like this question's a little like long-winded, and I hate to do that on a live. So the main difference is palliative care is usually like some kind of life-limiting illness instead of like exactly terminal, life-limiting, and you are managing the symptoms of that. Versus hospice, where you're terminal and your main focus is managing symptoms of end of life. It's very generalized, but I do have a video about it, and it's not generalized on the video. My pops always wanted children. He was one of 10. His first wife was on hospice and told the RN to tell him that she was on the pill and that she was sorry she lied. Why did the RN tell him that? Would you? Absolutely not. I would say that's a personal matter, and please discuss it amongst yourselves. People are crazy sometimes. I don't get it. Wow. I've been caregiving for my stepmom, bedridden, Alzheimer's, on hospice, 17 months so far. I asked the nurse today where we are in this. She said she has a while. Her vitals are good. Heck, better than mine. Yeah, Lynn, people with Alzheimer's disease can live a very long time. And sometimes, a lot of times, will come off hospice and have to go back on later. How do I feel about death doulas? I feel like they're underutilized and they're great. I wish the government would pay for them, or hospice facilities would pay for them, instead of families having to pay out of pocket, which is not the death doula's fault. It's our healthcare system's fault. How are pain meds handled for someone afraid to take them because they are in recovery for alcoholism? Totally feel you. I am in recovery for alcoholism as well. I try to educate people that like managing their pain is like the most important thing. And sometimes pain medicine can actually bring you back to life versus making you feel addicted. But it is tough. And they'll if they're in recovery, they're going to have to work with people in recovery who they trust and know, as well as a doctor who they trust and know, to kind of work together to help with that. I have seen many people in recovery on heavy narcotics because they have to be, because of what's going on. And a lot of times when you have pain and you're taking pain medicine, you don't necessarily get high. Your pain just goes away. So, but it is scary. I get it. Hello. My brother passed away and home. He was unable to move or stay. I'm going to try to answer this, but I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. My brother passed away in the home. He was unable to move or stay or standing up for 2 days before dying. He lost his bladder control. So why is all this happening? All of this is, so I don't know. I can only speak from a place from hospice. I don't know what was going on with your brother. So if your brother was on hospice and you guys knew he was dying, that is why that happened, because it's very normal for someone dying to not be able to move, stand, and be incontinent. But if he just suddenly did that, I wouldn't be able to tell you why. You'd have to ask doctors who were there. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Lisa. Okay. Do you ever get a break from death? It must be hard. I do get lots of breaks from death. And really, it's not hard. There's far worse things than dying, and that is suffering. And I really feel like I'm doing a good job with what I'm doing, so it doesn't feel as hard as you'd think. But thank you for caring, Skeeter. I like your name. Rapid breathing for hospice before. Feel guilty for not calling 911. I kept asking her. Oh, Tim Smith, please don't feel guilty. Easy for me to say, though, right? I think it's so easy to kind of ruminate on that more than just, okay, this is what I heard from my friend Megan, who is an author about grief. How sometimes, and tell me if this rings true, Tim, and I hope it's not, doesn't sound offensive, because I'm not trying to be offensive to you. But she was like, sometimes when someone dies, it almost feels like our brain is protecting us from the grief by, instead of like acknowledging that they're gone and having and like feeling that, it's like almost easier to ruminate over the what ifs, you know, like it's almost easier to feel guilty and like what if this, I could have done that, or what if I did this, than the acceptance of their being gone. It's almost like part of the grieving process. And when she said that, I was like, wow, that really rung true for me. And it's so common for people to feel guilty afterwards, and to really go over what they should have done. You know, I wasn't there, so I don't want to take that away from you, but I will say, like, it's really common to feel like that. And like, to me, there's nothing that they could have done, especially if she's telling you not to call 911. I mean, because if they want to die naturally, calling 911 is not going to do anything. How do you feel about oral morphine at end of life? This was the only option given to my father, who was in a nursing home, dementia, but he passed from COPD. He just didn't seem as comfortable as others. I think oral morphine can really do it, especially if it's liquid. But if it wasn't working, I would say keep pushing them to do something else. That's why before you go onto a hospice, always ask them, like, what forms of medication do they use? If something isn't working? Because you don't want to go with just like a basic. If a hospice company just keeps saying morphine. Don't get me wrong. I love morphine. I love liquid morphine. I think it's the hands down the best thing to use until it's not. And then if it's not, they need to have other options. You know what I mean? So that's my take on it. What if your loved one won't discuss hospice or DNR and they only have a few months to live? Oh, yeah, it's so hard. I'm so sorry that's going on with you. You have to meet them where they're at, right? You can't make someone. If someone isn't like that and hasn't been like that for their whole entire life, we cannot expect them to suddenly have a bunch of insight and ability to discuss difficult things when the time comes, right? Like if they haven't been able to do that their whole life, then probably when it's something as scary as death, of course they're not going to do that, right? That's really hard. My main advice would be, if you can, get your doctor and a social worker to call a meeting to get together to talk about it. Sometimes it's easier to have a social worker and a doctor who are trained, or a social worker and a nurse, whoever, to talk about it, to bring up the tough questions and the hard things to talk about. You can say, I want to have a meeting about as long as you're a close enough relative or whatever. And if not, you can always just point blank try to talk to somebody about it. I mean, it's awkward. I mean, it takes practice, but someone's got to do it. And if you already have and they just refuse to talk about it, it is what it is, and that's their choice. It's real hard, but that's their choice. Sometimes I like to say, for people who are really resistant, I like to say, listen, I know this is really scary, and I know this is really scary, but this is what I'll tell you from my experience. You can hope for the best, but you need to plan for the rest. You need to plan for the rest, or the worst, or however you want to say it, because Because at the end of the day, we're all going to die. Not just you, me too. And we need to have a plan in place so it can go as well as it can. And sometimes they'll take that and sometimes they won't. And if they can't, again, it's up to them. It's up to them. Yeah, Sally, I'm so sorry. I can't give you the answer, unfortunately. Sally says, sorry for asking again. My mom fitted before dying and I have never found the answer. It haunts me. Sally, sometimes there isn't an answer. Even if someone was there, let's just say, even if I was there in the room with you and it was happening, most of the time, especially on hospice, we can't give you a definite answer. And I know that's hard. But the answer is it's normal. We don't always know why it's happening, but it's normal. And hopefully they can medicate for it. But sometimes it's just for moments and then it's done. Right? I'm so sorry. Raven, I do not take care of people on hospice who die from high blood glucose. It usually happens in the hospital, so it's hard for me. So I wouldn't be able to describe that for you. There are people waiting for you on another page. I don't know what that means. What page? Oh, I know what that means. It probably means something that Max and Jeff hooked up for me, and then I just didn't do it. I did my own live, so hopefully they made it over here. I never know how to do this. Oh, here she is, Irish. Welcome to the Compassionate. It says XO Irish XO. Welcome to the Compassionate Companions. Yay, thank you for becoming a member. I just saw that, finally. Let me see. I'll get to your question in a second, hopefully. Hi, Julie. I'm actually the hospice patient. I followed you since the beginning. I'm 54 and not afraid to die because of you. Oh, Anne, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. How are the last months of GBM like? So it's hard to say for sure. Everyone will be different. GBM's tough. It's a brain tumor. People are usually young. They're usually pretty incapacitated, usually confused. I have a video about it. It's called like what to expect when dying from GBM. So that can help answer those questions for you too. But everyone's different. It can be difficult. There's usually seizures, pain, seizures and pain, and then like functional decline, mental decline, because it's the tumor that's messing with them, right? But we can do a lot of things to make them very comfortable, but it's just really, really hard. What about end-stage breast cancer? Again, it depends on where they metastasize to. So usually end-stage cancers depend on where they metastasize, the lung, the brain, and then the liver, and then that stuff will add to the different symptoms. Usually with end-stage breast cancer, people are younger, and it could be mets to the brain. So there could be seizures and headaches, confusion, sometimes pain, sometimes shortness of breath. A lot of those things, though, we really can manage we can really manage. So they don't die in pain. Hope that helps. Can a person with advanced dementia know they're dying? It's hard to know. I would say no, but it's really hard to know. I think they might know in their body, but their brain cannot really compute or tell you, right? So they might know in their body, but yeah. Just reading through some of these. Thank you so much, everybody. User Can't 12 says, Julie, don't shout at me. I'm sending you a gift. Was I shouting at you? I'm just loud. My sister says that all the time to me. She's like, why are you screaming? I'm like, this is my regular voice. Thank you, Geeky Red. You guys, we are worldwide tonight. Australia, the UK. Okay, I'm getting to more questions here. Have you ever had a dying patient see a dead pet instead of a deceased person? Yes. Yes. Many times. Many times. That's all I have to say. Yes, many times. Like an epileptic. Okay, Sally, I hope you're still here. So Sally is saying the fit was more like an epileptic fit more than an agitation. Okay, so that can be normal-ish. I mean, I don't know. Again, unfortunately, I need to have a more medical history. And it's not for me. This is what I think. Grief is complicated. And that's why I never do independent sessions, because I don't want to like make money off of people grieving. You know, Sally, I could say all types of things, right? But at the end of the day, we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. I could say maybe there was some chemicals off. Maybe like her magnesium was down, or something happened where it made her shake, right? Or her sugar was low, so she was shaking. But like all of that is me just kind of making an educated guess. And I think grief is complicated. And I think sometimes we don't know. And even if we had the answer, would it really help? Right? Let's just say we found out for sure she had some kind of brain tumor, and the brain tumor was pressing on this part of the brain, and that caused her to have some seizures. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe not. I don't know. But I can tell you that most of the time, especially if it was right before she died, she probably was fully unconscious. And that was more her body than her individual personality. Like, was her brain intact and feeling all those things? I highly, highly, highly doubt it, if that helps. It's easy for me, because I'm not her daughter, to see that it is a biological part of her body, not really her as a person, but the body that's doing that. And she, the person that you know and love, is not really there anymore. But that's so hard to see when it's your loved one. You know what I mean? And it's just so hard. I'm so sorry you're having such a hard time with that. And it's very, very normal that you are, if that helps too. It's so normal that you have these haunting last moments. I hear that all the time. And that's why talking to other people who've experienced this, right? Like other support groups, something like that, can be so helpful, because they've experienced the same thing or something like it, and can say, me too, you're not alone. This happened to me too. It was so hard. All I can say, if it's any help at all, is that it was likely okay. And it's likely normal-ish for whatever's happening. I hope that helps even a tiny bit. I'm a new grad starting in the, oh my gosh, cardiac ICU. My goal is to work in hospice after some experience. Woo! That's going to be so beneficial for you. Good luck. Good luck. Having that experience is going to be really helpful. Oh, XO Irish, I finally got to your question. Thank you for the $13. You are so amazing. I hope you're still here, because it's been a while, girl. I've been a tele-med-surg RN, good job, for 18 years. I think med-surg is the hardest. I'm thinking of going to hospice. Any tips? XO Irish, I hope you are still here. Please go into hospice, because you will love it. It will not be as hard as med-surg. And you being a tele-med-surg nurse is going to help so much transitioning into hospice. My main thing is, don't be afraid to ask questions, and know that you're going to basically have to take your mindset of like fix everything and kind of change it into just make everything comfortable. It's going to take some time, but you having experienced 18 years as like a med-surg nurse is going to be so freaking amazing for this, and you're going to love it. And I'm so excited for you. Thank you for doing that. And yes, sorry, I didn't give you any tips. My tips are just, don't be afraid to say you don't know. Even though you've been a nurse for 18 years, you might not know some things in hospice. So don't be afraid to say you don't know. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Follow doctors and other nurses around if you can, to watch and see how they do their day and like how they speak to patients. I'm so excited for you. Welcome, Catherine Rose, to the Compassionate Companions membership. I've got 2 new members today. That's so amazing. Thank you. I have to imagine you've been getting questions about Brian Barzak going into hospice. Blair, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. I have to look into that. No, I haven't been getting questions about it. Do you ever watch any lights or orbs flying around people? I have not seen that, no. Geeky Red says, I was wondering if it's possible to develop PTSD from being in a career role a caregiver role for a family member through the various stages. Yes, people definitely who have been long-term caregivers or even short-term caregivers for people who are dying definitely can have PTSD for sure, 100%. Not everybody, but many, especially if they don't know what to expect and no one's helped them or educated them. It can be very, very stressful. So please, anyone, that's why I want people to know my channel so much, because I do think my channel could help with that. My channel or Hospice Nurse Penny's channel, any hospice nurse, not just mine, sorry. Any hospice education, end-of-life education will help with that. And please, if you're struggling with that, not you, Geeky, well, you too, Geeky, right, if you are, but anyone who is struggling with that, please get help. I do think therapy is great. I think the support groups are great. And if your loved one died less than a year ago, on hospice, you can get help through your hospice company. So you can call them because they will offer bereavement services. It seems that more a person fight their death, the worse it is to transition over to their death. Yes. So the more so people who don't accept that they're dying and they kind of fight it, it can be difficult. Their death can be less painful. I hate to say that because I don't want to feel like I'm like victim blaming, right? Like I don't want to be like, you need to accept it. Like I get it. But I do think people who have been more vocal about the fact that they're afraid, even if they say, I'm afraid to die, I don't want to die, even the fact that they're saying that out loud will help. It will help. And people who have been kind of super independent their whole entire life usually have a hard time with that too. Don't mind me. I need to like chug some sparkling water. Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good. How long does someone last on dialysis? People can last years and years and years on dialysis. Is it months or years? What's the best way to show up for them? Oh, Nick, you're the best. So people can live on dialysis a very good life for many years, 10, 15 years. And the best way to show up is knowing that on the days they have dialysis, which is usually 3 days a week, they will be exhausted. So if you could make them food or help them with transportation, those are the 2 biggest things probably. And also ask them. If you're comfortable with them, you could say, hey, what's the best way for me to show up for you? What does support look like for you? I would love to be here for you in some capacity. What would be really helpful? Do you need a meal on that day? Do you need a ride for that day? Something like that. Libby, thank you for being here. My husband just passed on Christmas Day. He had all the symptoms you described. Lady J, I'm glad you're here. So sorry your husband died. Thank you for being there for him and even being willing to be here and say something to us. I really appreciate it. Thank you. My dad has mixed Lewy body dementia, vascular, now bedbound, barely eating. So many dementia symptoms. Seems like active end-of-life process. Hope I can maintain strength to help my dad transition. Oh, forever curious. Me too. I hope you can too. Please don't be afraid to ask for help if you have someone to help you. If your dad's not already on hospice, please put him on hospice to help you. And if you need more help, you can always try to ask the hospice company. Sometimes they can help, sometimes they can't. And just remember, is he clean? Is he safe? Is he comfortable? If he is, you have nothing more to do. You don't need to make him get up. You don't need to make him eat. You don't need to make him do anything. And you're not being like a bad caregiver if you let him sleep all day. That's okay. As long as he's clean and safe. Let him sleep all day, baby. Let his body be the guide. What's your experience with pain management in patients with cervical cancer? My partner has it and is in excruciating pain every day. So if they're not on hospice, which they're probably not, they should go to their doctor and tell them that they're in excruciating pain every day. Now, if they are on hospice, they need to call their hospice company and not be in excruciating pain every day. So someone needs to do something about that, meaning not you or them, but like a doctor. Someone needs to help them. I actually don't see cervical cancer very often, but when I do, it usually does have some pain management involvement. Can fentanyl be given in a hospice for comfort medication? Yes, but it's always fentanyl patch. It's not fentanyl IV. Where am I from? I'm from Pennsylvania. I live in California now. Which is better for someone who doesn't have a lot of family? In hospice, at a brick and mortar, or still at home? Definitely in-house hospice is better for someone who doesn't have any family. Definitely. User Can't 12 just gave me $20, but the message was taken back. Why? What's a proper procedure when a patient is a Jehovah's Witness? Proper procedure. I don't know what you mean by procedure. The only thing I can think of for Jehovah's Witness is they don't want blood, so they always refuse blood. Let me know what you mean, Ari, and I will better answer that, hopefully. My brother is a hospice chaplain. Oh, that's amazing. I'm a hospice nurse too. CG, thank you. You love my ladybug video. Thank you so much. Tim Smith, thank you for being there for your friend. Ruth Ann says, I was totally burned out as an ER nurse, oh my gosh, flight nurse. I always wanted to be a flight nurse, Ruth, until I started working in the ICU. Then I was like, never mind. I don't want to do this. Ruth Ann, yes, you're probably so amazing as a hospice nurse. Thank you. Thank you, Blair. Hi, any strange moments for people who have died? Did you see any weird things? No, I've never had any weird, scary things happen to me. Oh, Sally, I'm sorry. Sally says, watching my mom die was the worst moment of my life. Oh, so sorry, honey. Okay. I've seen my big sister pass in the 70s, my dad in 86, children passing at home in mom's arms, no morphine, started convulsing. Julie, would she have been in pain? My dad passed and saw something. So Judy, your mom died in your arms, no morphine, started convulsions. I'm so sorry, you guys. It's kind of hard because I know you're probably just trying to type out a bunch of stuff, but it's hard. It's so hard for me to answer if people were in pain or not. I really wish I could just be like, no, like, I just want to give everyone the answer. Like, no, they weren't in pain. It's so hard for me to know. That's the honest answer. The honest answer is, I don't know. I would have to be there. I would have to have been your nurse. I would have to know what they were dying from. If they weren't normally, if it helps, the act of dying is not painful. Diseases you're dying from can be. So if they've been having pain, or if they're saying they're in pain, then yes. If they're in your arms and they looked okay, but they were just shaking, maybe they weren't. Likely they were unconscious, if that helps. Like, think about when you've had surgery and you were unconscious and you don't remember anything. That could be how it is, right? They don't know. They don't even know what's happening. But the honest truth is, I don't know, and I can't answer that. But I hate telling you that because I want to, I'm human too, and I want to make you feel better. I want to have the answers. But the truth is, I won't always have the answers. And no one really will, I guess. But I feel like maybe in your heart of hearts, or if it helps to kind of comfort yourself, letting you know, like, you did the best you could. There was nothing more you could do. You did your best. You did your best in that moment, Welcome, everybody. If you are just joining, I'm Hospice Nurse Julie. I'm just answering question by question by question, kind of line by line. I'm seeing everybody who's saying their thing, like who's saying thank you so much, or like if you're just stating something to me, I am reading all of those. So thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the heart. I think it's in the corner. That helps the live. If you want to join the membership, you can. It kind of gives you first dibs at questions and answers. And I'm going to be live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, user can't 12 or user can 12. Oh, I wish I could say what your name is. I'm sorry. I was in palliative care, long-term cancer advisor, still dealing with chronic pain and other health issues. Was there 8 months, then dismissed, made no sense. Is this common? Yes. Very common to be discharged from palliative care or hospice. If you are not showing signs of decline, they will take you off. Now, once you start showing signs of decline again, which not that we want you to, but once you did, you should be put back on. That's my understanding. I'm not sure if you're in the US, but if you are in the US, that's usually what it is. You have to show shines. You have to show signs of decline. What is dying from lung cancer like? I have stage 4. So everyone's different. People can live a long time with lung cancer. And if you haven't been having much pain or shortness of breath, you probably won't. But the main symptom I see with lung cancer is pain and shortness of breath. Everyone's different though, but we usually can manage it pretty easily. So I wouldn't say I think of lung cancer as one of the diseases that's like really like that has a lot of symptoms that we can't manage. They do have a lot of symptoms, but we usually can manage them. But everyone has to understand that once you're on hospice and you truly are getting towards the end of life, you will feel and be different, right? You're going to have lethargy. It's going to be hard for you to get up out of bed, right? So like your life will change. It is going to be a lot different. Not just lung cancer. I mean, anyone on hospice, like you're going to have functional decline and mental decline always, no matter what. And we will help with the symptoms, and it's kind of like you learning how to like live this new normal, which is usually a lot different than what you're used to. So it can be hard. I'm a paranormal investigator. Do you believe in ghosts, Maria? You know, Maria, I do, and I'm like or do I believe in ghosts? I don't know like what the heck I believe in, but I know I'm like fascinated by it all. Like I love watching ghost shows, even though I'm such a scaredy cat. I do not see ghosts, knock on wood, thank God. I believe I might feel things here and there, but I don't ever see anything. But I do find it fascinating. Night Fangs, great question. Has the protocols of hospice care changed since inception? If so, how? Just some examples, thanks. So since inception, first off, thank you for that $10 bill. It's amazing that someone just gave me $10. You guys are amazing. It used to not be Medicare driven, so they were getting no money from Medicare, which left them free to kind of do whatever they want, which was cool, but bad because there was no money to be had. Like they couldn't get money to help their patients, really, right? Now with Medicare involved, you get a lot of things for free, but now you have to like work within the Medicare system and like cross a bunch of T's and dot a bunch of I's as healthcare workers and like do a bunch of crap to like get stuff. And even then, if Medicare says like, no, that's not part of the hospice program, you can't get it. So it's annoying. So that's one of the biggest ways. That's the biggest thing that has changed. And that basically has changed everything. Now, I didn't work in hospice prior to Medicare not being involved. So like, I don't know exactly how it was. So I can't really give you exact examples, but that's like the biggest one that I could think of. Thank you, Miss Joelle, for joining the Compassionate Companions group. You guys, it makes me so excited. Oh my gosh, okay, I gotta get down to who are these people who are paying me money over here, you guys. Eric B says, both my parents have dementia and your videos are helping me manage and cope. Bless you for all you do. Next time, dump the wine on the waiter. Eric! Oh, I love you. Oh my goodness. That he's talking about my dinner this past weekend, or this past Saturday, yeah. Oh, thank you, Billow X Brat. I am sure I'm saying your name wrong. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. Okay, I wanted to go see if you guys had questions, and I'm going to come back up here. Give me a sec. Julie, if I'm dying, I want a lot of meds. Amen. Me too, baby. Me too. I mean, if I need it, of course. I want to say thank you for doing these videos. Have you ever dealt with someone dying from chronic pancreatitis? You know, Patricia, I have not. Chronic pancreatitis can develop into other things. So usually I've seen people with like liver disease and chronic pancreatitis, right? So they're dying from liver disease, not chronic pancreatitis. So I don't know if that's where you fall into, but that's people I see dying. I don't see people dying from chronic pancreatitis. Not that it can't happen, but I usually don't see it. Usually it's something with the liver, and then because of that, they have chronic pancreatitis. So if there is stuff going on with liver and it's a failure, like really severe, because you can live a long time with issues with your liver. But let's say you're on hospice for that, go to my video that says what it's like to die from liver disease or liver cancer. That will help. But chronic pancreatitis, I haven't seen, but I know it's really painful. So it's hard. Prince died of fentanyl overdose. Did he suffer? Was he uncomfortable? Collapse in a really hard for me to know personally if he was uncomfortable, but in general, overdoses, people are not uncomfortable. No. Overdoses, how this happens is, so there's two ways you can kind of die. Not in general. I mean, this is very generally stated, right? But people can go into a respiratory arrest or a cardiac arrest. Cardiac means your heart stops and then you stop breathing. Respiratory arrest means you stop breathing and then your heart stops. So anyone dying usually from a overdose, drug overdose, would be you stop breathing because you're taking such large amounts of opioids that you drives out your respiratory drive, so you don't breathe anymore. And then you don't breathe anymore, and then you die. Then your heart stops. So it's usually very, very peaceful, but you do die. Melissa, I love your explanation of GBM. Melissa says, in my experience, GBM, I hope you're still here, Melissa. Thank you for answering this. In my experience, GBM, which is glioblastoma, usually very strong and comfortable until the end, then rapid decline with sudden changes. I encourage all my patients, healthy or well, to start meditation practice. I love you, Melissa. I hope you're still here so you can hear me say I love you. Thank you so much for everyone who's sending me money. This is so amazing. Bay Area Ghost, I remember you. Do dying patients in a coma have pain? You know, it's hard to say for sure. I would say no, because they're usually managed very well. And usually they're in the hospital if they're in a coma. If they're not and they're in a coma, you would see physical signs of pain. You would see it. So you would see their face grimacing. If you touch them, they would jerk. Like their body will show you I'm in pain. So if they're just laying there and they're peaceful, they likely are not in pain. That's what I can say. Thank you, Michael, for joining the membership. Richard says, I would like you as my hospice nurse. It'll be a few years, but just the same, I think you're the best, and I'll be in California before the end of the year. Richard, I like it. I cannot guarantee you I'd be your hospice nurse, though, but there are many hospice nurses just like me, I promise. Barbara, thank you so much for the $5. Wow, you guys, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Okay. Bay Area Ghost, how you doing? Thanks for all you do. Thanks for all you do. Charlin Health Services, which I didn't watch that video yet, but I will. Thank you for sending me that today on Instagram. I went to meetings in LA too. You did? That makes me so happy. Maybe we'll see each other around. If you see me in meetings, let me know, please. Only because I like your name, Playful Rain, keeping it creepy. Love it. Watching my mother passing away for 3 days definitely was life-changing. Yes, I bet. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I lost my questions. Oh, here it is. Julie, can you talk about gangrene? I hope you're still here. Gangrene is when basically someone's usually toes and fingers are necrotic. It can happen with people with vascular disease, diabetes, as that guy, remember that guy? Bad joke. Yeah, you basically lose blood, so your feet end up getting necrotic, and it's usually starting at like the tip first and then kind of grows out. So if you don't cut off the dead area, it will eventually turn gangrene and you die from infection. And I've seen that happen a lot in the ICU. One of my great uncles, actually, when he died, they took off his shoes. He was a priest. Want to hear this crazy story? My great uncle was a priest because my mom grew up Irish Catholic, where the oldest son in the family goes into the priesthood at 14. And anyway, so he was a priest and he wore these big kind of medical black shoes his whole career. And then he finally died in his 80s. And when they took off his shoes, his toes were black. He walked around with dead toes. He just was in poor health. What do you think is the worst death you've witnessed? Probably one person with glioblastoma who refused to take medications to help with symptoms. So they had tons of symptoms. And then someone with ALS. And it was really hard for us to manage their symptoms. Let's see here. Question. My father died of asbestos poisoning coupled with lung cancer. Was his death painful? Couldn't be there when he passed. So so dying is not painful. I can say that. Dying is not painful. Diseases you're dying from can be. As long as there was someone there, and maybe people with lung cancer, people don't have to have pain just because they're dying, right? So if he's had pain in the past, or you knew he was having pain in general, hopefully they did a good job at managing his pain. It's really hard for me to know for sure, but that should be the main thing, if they don't die in pain. So if he was with good healthcare workers at the end of his life, then I would say no, he didn't die in pain. But dying itself, the natural process of dying, is not painful. Can pneumonia be dangerous for patients on hospice that has CHF? Yes. I don't know about dangerous. I guess I could say, pneumonia can cause death a lot, especially in older people. And so it's an infection, right? And people on hospice with CHF who get an infection, that's not the greatest thing, right? It happens though. So if they can swallow, actually, you know what? I don't want to give medical advice. Ask your hospice company what to do. So ask your hospice company what to do. They can treat with antibiotics. And I personally wouldn't, if it was me, I wouldn't go to the hospital for that, because I'm on hospice and I want to live out the rest of my days in my house and not going to the hospital. But talk to the hospice company and see. But yes, it can be, it's not the greatest to get an infection on hospice, but it's normal. Can death be reversed? It depends. I'm a hospice nurse. We're not talking about reversing death. We're just talking about dying and what it means. But technically, sometimes death can be reversed. I think we do it too often, too much. We try too hard in this country and cause a lot of people pain and suffering. Oh, Brian Barzak, I'm sure I'm saying that very wrong, is a YouTuber diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and is going to hospice now. Blair, thank you. I will have to look into that. Thank you for telling me that. I know you said something before. I didn't know who that was, but now I do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any frustrations you have with Medicare benefit of hospice currently that you've seen over the years coming from a clinician? Yes. Yes. So my big thing about the frustration with Medicare benefit is that it doesn't offer basically in-home supportive services. Like, and I know they'll be like, well, you can get a home health aide, you can get continuous care. I kind of feel like families need someone to be there like 8 hours a day, every day. Not every family, but many families. And I know that's so expensive and I don't know how it would happen, but I really do think everyday Americans, middle-class families need help with day-to-day care and not just a home health aide. They need someone to be there with their loved one so they can go to work or whatever. Like, we just need more help and we don't get it. That's my biggest frustration. The other thing is hospice companies that don't want to provide stuff like CAD pumps because they're probably more expensive versus just like a morphine, like a sublingual morphine. So the doctors and the facility, and the hospice company will push, like, just give them more morphine, versus trying a different way to provide pain relief, like a CAD pump that could be more effective. So the fact that there's like money in exchange, and like some hospice companies are better than others, right? So like some hospice companies do put the patients first, but many don't, because it's a business at the end of the day. And yeah, so that's the part that I don't like. And it doesn't always happen, but it happens enough. How long can people live with obstructive, COPD? Many, many, many years. Not everybody, but many. My father has end-stage renal disease on HD, also multiple myeloma, end-stage Alzheimer's. My heart breaks for him. Oh, Nina, it's so much stuff. So much. I'm so sorry. It is a lot. That's really hard. Okay. Megan, I love you. My mom is in end-stage renal failure. Her kidneys are functioning at 7%. She got a PD catheter today, starting PD really soon. Suggestions on what I should expect, life expectancy. So Holly, so I'll say this, if she's getting PD and it's helping, and like toxins are being cleared, it's gonna, that's good. She can live longer. She'll probably be very, very lethargic. She'll probably need, she might already need a lot of help with daily living activities. She might be confused. I will say death from end-stage kidney disease or renal failure is very, very peaceful. It's very peaceful. It does happen, like once people do stop complete like dialysis totally, you'll usually will die 7 to 10 days, but it's very, very peaceful. They just fall asleep. Hold on. Sister is texting me. Okay. I'm going to have to get off here pretty soon, folks. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom of these last final questions. People can live with COPD or chronic obstructive disease for a very, very long time. Someone just asked that again. 10, 15 years. How old are you, Julie? I am 41. I love how I had to think of that. Oh, Michael, I hope you're still here. I just saw your question. Do people die from osteogenesis imperfecta? I'm like, I can't pronounce anything. EDS. I'm in palliative care. I also have my heart. I'm not mobile much. Michael, so people can die from all of those things eventually, I suppose. I have seen some people on a hospice for EDS. They usually come off though, like any of those, as you know this already just from living it, right? Any of those like chronic disorders kind of put you on and off hospice and palliative care. It's like, again, as you probably know, it's like up and down, up and down, up and down with those disorders. And they can be really hard. Any kind of chronic illness is so hard. Chronic illness, misunderstood illness is so hard. But people can live on palliative and hospice care for quite some time. But I don't see them dying on hospice very often, if I'm honest. So I'm trying to think. I don't even think I've had it. I'm sure patients do die, right? But personally, me, I don't think I've ever had a patient with those diseases die on hospice. That doesn't mean they don't, but I haven't seen it. It's just this, unfortunately, I mean, you know better, the chronic long-term illnesses are so hard and they're misunderstood and they're up and down and you have good days and bad days. And it's just hard. It's just hard. I'm really glad you're on palliative care. Because palliative care can at least help with the symptoms. They're very, very painful. Yes. Oh, now I hope palliative care is a little more aggressive with you as far as pain management. That's the one thing hospice will do. So I had a patient like you, not all of those things, but a couple of them come onto hospice. She was young. She was 25. And because we were super aggressive with her pain management, she felt so much better, right? But then you come off hospice and it's hard to get that kind of pain management off of hospice because doctors are afraid they're going to overdose you, even though it's very unlikely because now you're used to it, but still, so it's hard. Okay, good. Yeah. But palliative care is usually pretty good at it. Did you get sober first time you tried quit drinking? Were you on and off the wagon? So I had tried, so everyone who doesn't know, I've been sober 7 years. It'll be 8 years, February 4th. And I did try a lot of times to, I wouldn't say get sober, but I had many of those times where it was like, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm going on a cleanse. I'm moving to India and like going to an ashram. I didn't do that, but I did do a silent retreat for like 5 days. Like I went on these periods of like, I'm not drinking so much. I'm not drinking. I'm going to quit. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I did a lot of that. But the first time I really did say like, I'm quitting drinking. I think I have a problem. I did stick to it. That was almost 8 years ago. And then I got help. So at first I did 11 months by myself, not getting help. That was torture. Never recommend. Very scary, very horrific. Because I was just mentally ill and really alcohol and drugs were like the thing that was like helping my mental illness. And then I took those things away and then I was just like goo in my brain, super anxious and like isolated. And it was really awful. And I almost drank again because I was so miserable and so scared. But then I got help, thankfully, and it changed my life. If there's any other topic I could do a whole YouTube channel on and talk about it always would be sobriety. It's changed my whole world. Okay, it's 6:21. I've got to go, you guys. I've been on here for far too long. Usually I'll be on here from about 5 to 6. And thank you so much for everyone who's here. Thank you so much. All the donations. Thank you so much. My new members. Welcome. It is a community here. Every time I go live now, when you're a member, I will see you pop on first and I'll be able to answer your questions hopefully first because I'll see that my member asked a question. So I really appreciate it. And thanks for everyone who is here. And I think a video came out tonight. I'm putting out 3 videos a week now. Anyway, And next week will be a higher quality because I'll have my camera on instead of the computer camera. All right, y'all. I am not Southern. Not that that's wrong, but I don't know why I say y'all every once in a while. Okay, you guys. Really nice talking to everyone. Nice seeing you guys and talking and answering your questions. And thank you for all your support. Really appreciate it. Love you.